Welcome to the Arsenal transfer room. What is the Arsenal transfer room? Nothing, really. It's still just me sat in my room talking about Arsenal transfers, but it's a bit of branding. It's a bit of marketing. So if you ever see a thumbnail that says the Arsenal transfer room, you know it's me, which is great. So you'll click on it and come back. Right. Anyway, look, before we get into it, Jamie Gittens, that is the breaking news today. We're going to talk about some Saliba news from yesterday, as well as Rodrigo, who, if you've watched my alternative transfer videos, you'll know I'm keen on. We're going to get into all of that. Before we do, if I could ask you to subscribe, we are 44 subscribers away from 16,000. Come on, let's hit it before the PSG game, please. Tomorrow, there will be a big preview video for that PSG game. I'm actually leaving to Paris in 12 hours, but I'll schedule it for tomorrow. And if you could like the video, I would be massively grateful. But look, let's get into that news from today on Gittens. This came from RNBVB. Now, that is a Borussia Dortmund-based source. Apparently, it's a Tier 1 source, according to Doc. I don't know. I've never seen them before, so I'm not going to claim that it's Tier 1. But perhaps it is. Anyway, they are saying Arsenal are in serious negotiations for Gittens and are ahead of Chelsea in the race. There was a bit more on that, according to Eduardo Hain. Take that with a pinch of salt. But according to him, his translation of that news was that Arsenal are leading the race to sign Jamie Gittens. Talks are serious between Dortmund and the Gunners, and Dortmund will sell the winger for around 50 to 60 million euros. So that's in and around the same fee that you'd probably pay for Nico Williams, but the difference, I would imagine, is that Gittens would be significantly lower on the wage bill. That's always been the big issue when it comes to Nico Williams. And then a little bit more, this came from a local newspaper to Borussia Dortmund that found out the attacker has kept stating in the dressing room that he will not be at the club next season. He's represented also by Elite Project Group Limited, who are the people that manage Arsenal star Bukayo Saka. They also, I think, managed Eddie Nketiah and maybe even a couple of others at Arsenal. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? You could argue, well, it's good because you're used to negotiating with them. You've got a good relationship with them. However, it has always sounded like they've been very difficult to negotiate with when it comes to Bukayo Saka. So it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. But look, on Jamie Gittens himself, I like it. We'll bring up, of course, the old greenery. But look, he's 20 years old, turns 21 in the summer. He's English, homegrown, always good for the quota. He's right-footed, but very comfortable on both feet. And from what I have seen of him, and I'm not going to pretend that I've done some huge scouting mission on him, I've watched him a fair few times in the Champions League, a couple of times in the Bundesliga, and I've seen some compilations, right? That's what I've seen of him. My takeaway is this. He is a very, very good dribbler of the ball, an exciting dribbler of the ball to watch, exceptionally quick. His end ball is probably the weakest part of his game. I think in that sense, he's a little bit like Jeremy Doku. He can strike the ball well, has got a few really, really nice goals in his catalogue. And I think he would definitely compete with Gabriel Martinelli. And I think that is something that we need right now. For me, Trossard, the time has come. And therefore, we need to bring in a left winger. And I think actually bringing in a left winger is more important this summer than other people do. But if we come down to the greenery, the output, that's what we like to see. 21 starts in the Bundesliga this season, 8 goals, 3 assists, so 11 contributions. Now, if you compare that to Nico Williams also has 21 starts in La Liga this season, and he has 5 goals and 5 assists. So Gittens has 1 more goal contribution, and it's weighted more towards goals than assists, where Nico Williams is pretty even either way. If we keep coming down, you can see on his shot map, very comfortable coming in onto that right foot, whipping it top bins. There are a few of those in the catalogue, like I said. But what I like about him is how comfortable he is going down onto his left or his right. He throws in step-overs, and it looks like those step-overs come naturally. Like, you know, with Martinelli, sometimes when he tries to do skills, it can feel a bit clunky, like he's really thinking about what he's doing. With Gittens, it doesn't. It feels really free-flowing, like it just comes naturally to him. But, like I said, once he maybe gets down onto his left, is that final ball as good as it could be? Probably not. And that's reflected, I think, in some of these numbers. So in terms of per 90, 0.4 goals per 90 from just 0.18 XG. That's very good in one sense, in that he maybe is overperforming on his XG. But why is the XG so low? Is it a system-based thing? Is it a Dortmund-based thing? Who, to be fair, whilst they've come back recently, haven't been great this season? Or is it to do with him and the positions he's getting in? Again, I don't think I've watched enough of him to understand that fully. Very comfortable taking shots. In terms of his passing and creativity, this is probably his weaker part of the game, 0.15 assists per 90 from an expected 0.21. That can be on who's ahead of him. Actually, if you compare that to Nico Williams is kind of inversed from that. So Williams actually gets more assists than his expected assists, and the numbers are actually fairly similar. Pass accuracy is solid. Chance creation, very low. That's probably the lowest stat that you'd be slightly concerned about. I assume he doesn't take any set pieces, which is something that can kind of stat pad those stats. But then this is where he blows most other players out of the water. Just short of 4 successful dribbles per game, really high touches in the opposition box, which is important for us, and the fact that he's comfortable doing that. The number of fouls that he wins. This is, I mean, even compared to Nico Williams, I think Nico Williams is about 2.9 successful dribbles per 90, and Gittens is up there at 3.9. And then defending, actually really strong numbers when it comes to winning duels. So we know what Mikel Arteta's like. That probably rings well. So look, overall, if you offered me him or Nico Williams for the same fee, knowing that Williams would be on significantly more money, I'd probably be looking at taking Gittens. I actually think he is probably the one that I would go for. So hopefully, RNBVB is a good outlet and a reliable outlet, and we genuinely are interested in him. To be honest, I'm quite relieved even that this link has come out, because I was getting a bit worried. That there was all this noise about Nico Williams, who has been a long-term target that Arteta loved. But outside of that, there's been little bits here about maybe Ademola Lookman, but there hadn't been much on a left winger. And I was beginning to get worried that it was kind of like, well, we really want Nico Williams, but if we can't get him, we won't get a left winger. And I really do think, I saw a picture from the PSG game where in one picture there's Saka and 6 PSG players. And it's like teams are so happy to do that and leave our left winger in a 1v1 situation because they don't feel like that's a threat. And when you see Martinelli and Trossard both, miss that one-on-one opportunity that they had in that game, you can understand why we need a threat on that left-hand side that makes teams think twice about committing so many men to Saka. So I do think it's important. Time will tell if it will happen. But getting back to the other transfer news, this yesterday coming out about William Saliba. Now, it first came out from a guy, a Spanish journalist called Rodrigo. It was reported by the Madrid outlets. And I kind of, whenever that happens, I'm like, okay, random Spanish journalist, Madrid things, it's propaganda, right? But Hand of Arsenal then retweeted one of those and put out his own post. Hand of Arsenal is a very reliable Arsenal in the know. And he said, Arsenal will do everything they can to hold on to William Saliba. Real Madrid have made it very clear, however, in the past week that he is their number one choice. It's down to the club now to show the player that we are a serious institution. Now, that bottom bit is certainly his opinion rather than fact, but it backs up the notion that Real Madrid are genuinely serious about William Saliba. L'Equipe then put out their own thing. Now, I would be cautious with this one. They're a French outlet 2 days before we're playing against PSG in a Champions League semi-final. Anything to rock the boat, right? But they say William Saliba has been in talks with Real Madrid, and it's the only club that he would be willing to leave Arsenal for. The defender does not intend to leave the Gunners, though, but the club will have to prove it's possible to win trophies. So again, a lot being put on trophies here. Now, there's a few things that you can mention with that, by the way. First of all, trophies are no guarantee that a player stays. Ask Liverpool fans with Trent Alexander-Arnold, right? But also, I've always felt if a player wants to win a trophy, it's on them. It's on this group of players. So whenever we hear all the best players are all going to leave, they're the ones that need to win the trophies. But outside of that, look, he's got a contract until 2027. He's got 2 years left on it come this summer. We need to either tie him to a new contract or float the idea of getting a record-breaking fee for him. We cannot allow Real Madrid to do exactly what they've just done with Trent Alexander-Arnold and convince him to stay and run down his contract and then walk on a free. I don't care if he stays for 2 years and helps us win something. Losing an £100 million+ player for free is not acceptable. So as far as I'm concerned, you need to sit him down now and have that conversation. Is he replaceable? No. Right now, I don't look at anyone on the transfer market and think that he's replaceable. Can you come close to replacing him? Probably. If you can get over 100 million for him rather than losing him for free, I do think it's something you have to look at. Now, the final bit on this that was interesting was this thing on Rodrygo. Now, the reason this is interesting is this Rodra. That Rodra journalist is the exact same one that have posted about William Saliba earlier in the day yesterday. Now, he said Arsenal have asked about Real Madrid's Rodrigo in recent days. The winger will decide his future after a conversation with Xabi Alonso with a starting price close to 100 million euros. Now, like I said, if you watched that alternative transfers video, Rodrigo would be my number one option to buy as a left winger. I think he is criminally underrated at this point because he has been playing off the right-hand side, both for Real Madrid and for Brazil, because Vini Jr. plays off the left. I think he's an exceptional talent, and I think he is ready to, I guess some would argue, take a step down from Real Madrid, but a step up in terms of the influence that he can have on a team. And I think he would be an absolutely excellent buy. Would I swap him in a way for William Saliba? Would I say, okay, you can have Saliba, we want Rodrigo? No, I wouldn't. I think Saliba is more important to us than Rodrigo would be. And I think the difficulty in replacing Saliba would be more significant than, taking a step down from Rodrigo to the next best left winger. But with that said, I would argue if Rodrigo is available, we should be pushing for him anyway. Keep Saliba and get Rodrigo. That's how a really serious institution works. You keep your best players and you bring in more. Now, I don't think that will happen this summer with the other work that we're doing. 100 million euros on Rodrigo. I don't think it will happen. But it is interesting, just a few weeks after I made that video talking about Rodrigo, that suddenly there's a link there. There was never a link there previously. So that is exciting. But look, that is going to be the end of the video. Let me know in the comments, would you want Gittens? Would you want Nico Williams? Do you think it's important we sign a left winger? And try not to worry too much about William Saliba, because I genuinely don't think the Saliba news is that significant right now. I think he genuinely does want to stay at the club and win trophies with us. That is going to be the end of the video. Please do like, please do subscribe. Like I said, PSG preview will be out tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the rest of your bank holiday Monday if you are British and have a bank holiday. If not, hope you've had a good start to the week. And I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye.